Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we got a bunch of great Steelers news and rumors to cover for you guys here on a Monday. And the big story of the day that we're going to be covering is Deebo Samuel. And now he is officially being shopped by the San Francisco 49ers. And according to a new report, Deebo actually wants to be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers and plans on reaching out to GM Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin in the days to come to try to get his way to the Steel City. And if a trade happens, if Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin actually get something done for a wide receiver this offseason, we know they failed to do that last year. Hopefully they get something done this time around. But if something happens, we are going to get you guys covered with breaking news coverage here on Steelers Talk. And if it's a big enough name like Deebo Samuel, we will go live for you guys right here on the channel when that breaking news hits. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss a big move and our live analysis here on Steelers Talk. So this is what Adam Schefter put out yesterday in terms of the Deebo Samuel situation. The 49ers have granted Deebo Samuel and his agent Tory Dandy permission to find a trade partner for the wide receiver, Samuel told ESPN. This comes after Samuel asked San Francisco to trade him during the players' exit meetings after the season. Yeah, quote unquote. It was a hard conversation to have with Kyle Shanahan because of the relationship that we have, Samuel said today, but I have to do what's best. I'm more than thankful for the Niners giving me the opportunity of a lifetime, but now I think it's best that we find another team. And then Adam Schefter himself went on the Pat McAfee Show today and said, quote unquote, I could see Deebo in Pittsburgh. So there's certainly some smoke here that Deebo Samuel could be sparking the interest of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then according to Noah Strackbein of Sports Illustrated, he says, according to a source from another NFL team, Samuel and his agent Tory Dandy are quote-unquote absolutely going to attempt to engage with the Steelers, making them an immediate candidate if they share the same interest. And I do think that it makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have some sort of interest in Deebo Samuel, because I think that, he's the type of receiver and he's kind of the type of versatile Swiss Army knife that Arthur Smith really cherishes in his offense. First, it was kind of Cordero Patterson there with Atlanta, kind of using him in a versatile type of role. And then, of course, he brought Cordero here to Pittsburgh in kind of a lesser role than what it was in Atlanta. But Deebo Samuel can certainly be of value to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He still brings great size to the table, 6 foot, 215 pounds at 29 years old. So he's still technically on the right side of 30, but he's certainly approaching that number. Also, Pittsburgh had discussions with the 49ers last year around the draft to potentially trade for Deebo Samuel. Now, they were also having conversations surrounding Brandon Ayuk, and as we know, nothing came to fruition during the draft. But I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers would likely be wanting, or the Deebo Samuel himself would be likely looking for a new contract for whatever team he's going to be going to. So that's something that you have to keep in mind as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. My scouting report on Deebo Samuel here, guys. I really like the play strength that he brings to the table and the size. His run after the catch ability is legendary. Still brings that to the table, even though I think he did lose a step this past year with the 49ers. The run blocking, in my opinion, is still top 5 among wide receivers in the game today. And then his versatility, his usefulness in screens, in jet sweeps, is even a running back in the backfield can be something that Arthur Smith can use to be more creative with his scheme, all this different stuff. But the cons, guys, and it's a big con, if you're asking him to be a true separator versus man coverage, he's not the best route runner in the world. He's not the best in terms of getting in and out of his breaks, all these different things. And then also, he's not the best hands receiver either. I wouldn't say he necessarily has a drop issue, but it's not like he's going to be going up down the sideline making crazy catches consistently for the Steelers offense if they end up trading for him. But I think that Art will absolutely have a soft spot for Deebo and his skill set. And there's a reason why Kyle Shanahan likes Deebo Samuel and his skill set as much as he does. And it's because you can use him in a myriad of different ways, on orbit motions, on all these different things, jet sweeps, screens, and then also he blocks his ass off as a run blocker, which we know Arthur Smith really loves. But Jack, I saw this photo of him in New Orleans last week, and he looks fat. Is he out of shape? What the heck is going on right now? Why would the Steelers want to trade a draft pick to go out and get Deebo Samuel? But take it from me, man. I was there in New Orleans at Radio Row, and I saw Deebo Samuel with my own two eyes. he is not fat, all right? He is not bulging out of that jersey or whatever the case. It's at a terrible angle. You take a picture of me, my skinny ass, at that angle, kind of looking up that way, I'm going to look like I've put on some poundage, all right? So Deebo Samuel is still in playing shape. He is still in football shape. And, I think that the whole, fat Deebo thing is a complete load of crap. I still think he can play at the NFL level, even though he has lost a step athletically, which shows on his tape with the 49ers last year. But it's not really going to cost all that much for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go out and get Deebo Samuel, in my opinion. At the very most, I think that Deebo's probably going to catch a 4th-round pick. And I think that Omar Khan, with the way that he likes to be aggressive with these trades, could potentially even get Deebo Samuel for a 5th or even a 6th-round pick, depending on the rest of the trade, what the rest of the trade market looks like for Deebo. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Deebo Samuel situation here. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers? A 4th-round pick for Deebo Samuel. For me personally, guys, I would do it if it's a 5th-round pick, not a 4th-round pick. But this is expected to be the price tag for Deebo Samuel. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. A for accept or D for decline. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at ZBiotics. And while I'm talking about ZBiotics, go down there, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and give me your answer. And now let's talk a little bit here about our sponsor today at ZBiotics. And as most of you guys know, I don't drink alcohol, all right? But I certainly work with a lot of people that do here at Chat Sports, and I'm thankful they have ZBiotics pre-alcohol as a resource for them to be able to be at their best for me and this show here at Steelers Talk after having some fun the night before. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol converts into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best the next day. So go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS. That's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head on over to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. A big thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring today's episode of Steelers Talk. So when it comes to the cap hit that the Steelers would have to be taking on if they trade for Deebo Samuel, right now the Steelers would only be taking on $1.92 million for 2025. I think his base salary is at about $1.7 million, and then a roster bonus is at around $200,000. So you look at that, and that's where it ends up. Under $2 million looks pretty darn good, but keep in mind here that Deebo may be looking for a new contract. Maybe he doesn't want to go to a team on just a one-year deal. He might be looking for a long-term home, and the Pittsburgh Steelers may be willing to give him that contract, but it's going to be hairy for him to find the contract that suits his desire, because I think that, last year his numbers definitely dipped quite significantly, so I don't know what kind of contract he's actually going to get on the open market. But here's the catch when it comes to getting a guy like Deebo Samuel, guys. If Pittsburgh gets him, that likely means that the Steelers won't be spending at least an early draft pick on a wide receiver, because Deebo Samuel is going to be slotting in as the number 2 wide receiver in this rotation. The number 1 guy will be George Pickens or some other veteran. If they trade George and they bring in Devontae Adams, for example, he would be the number 1 receiver. But George or some other veteran is probably going to be the number 1 guy heading into the season. Deebo would be your number 2 guy. Calvin Austin III would be your number 3, and Roman Wilson would slot in as your number 4, coming in to play the slot from time to time. So if you get Deebo Samuel and you want a wide receiver early in the draft, I just don't know if that's going to be something the Pittsburgh Steelers actually do. And that's exactly why, personally, if I'm Steelers GM Omar Khan, especially because I think Deebo's going to want a new contract, I would rather pass on Deebo Samuel, and I would spend a draft pick in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft this year to pick up somebody for the future. There's a lot of really good wide receivers in this class. It's not as good on day 3. The depth at wide receiver isn't what we've seen in years past, but you can get a really good wide receiver at pick number, in the first round for the Steelers or in rounds 2 or 3. This is a list of all the guys I have my eye on. I think the Steelers are going to be looking for more of an outside kind of guy. I really like Alec Ayomaner out of Stanford, who's really good. Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State is certainly somebody I have my eye on as well. Jack Besh out of TCU is a fantastic run blocker that I think Arthur Smith will fall in love with as well. All these guys I have my eye on as potential wide receiver draft targets for the black and gold this spring. Now, before I go here, we talked about Deebo Samuel. Let's talk about Russell Wilson here, because Adam Schefter, when he went on Pat McAfee today, not only gave an update on Deebo Samuel, he also gave an update on Russell Wilson. This is what Schefter had to say on McAfee earlier today. Russ is having conversations with the organization about the future and where it's going to go. There's still a lot that's going to play out here, but I think he definitely thinks he may be back in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, Russell Wilson has been wearing Steelers gear in his offseason workouts. He was all Steelers at the Pro Bowl. You know, he's making it abundantly clear he wants back in Pittsburgh. All right, but I think that the message that I have for Steelers fans is just because Russell Wilson is saying he wants to be back in Pittsburgh doesn't mean the Steelers necessarily want him back, right? This takes 2 to tango. You need the team to want him, and the player needs to want to come back. It seems like the player is willing. The question that's going to be answered here over the next several weeks is whether the Steelers are willing to come to the table, and then what the contract looks like. Is Russell Wilson willing to take a $10 or $15 million per season contract to come back and try to win Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because I think that's what it's going to take. The Steelers aren't going to pay him $30+ million per season. I think they're too smart to do that. But if he wants to take a $10 to $15 million deal, I think they would certainly be open to that, especially if they can't get Aaron Rodgers, especially if they can't get Sam Darnold, especially if they can't get Matthew Stafford, especially if they can't get Justin Fields back or if Fields becomes too expensive. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Gauge it for me. Percent chance Russell Wilson is back with this team next year. Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. Right now, I'd put it at about a 10% shot. I don't think the chances are all that great, guys. I think the Steelers are probably going to move on, but who knows? Crazier things have certainly happened. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. We got more great Steelers content coming your way throughout the 2025 offseason and beyond. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.